Welcome, everybody. Welcome to episode number 108 of Fraternity Foodie. I am your host, Mike Ayalon, CEO of Greek University. We call these episodes Fraternity Foodie because there is nothing like great food to bring people together. I want to wish all of our listeners a happy holiday and a happy new year. And to celebrate, today we have for you the M&M Show, which includes our guest, Michael A. Smith. He is the Assistant Dean for Student Engagement at Newberry College in South Carolina. Michael has tons of programming and advising experience on college campuses, including Greek life, and he has a very good working knowledge of student development theory. So Michael and I recently spoke at the AFA Annual Meeting. We were talking about recruiting and retaining Gen Z, which was a great pairing for us because we were able to share our two perspectives as a Gen X and as a millennial. The crowd was so pumped about the program that they insisted on a new M&M podcast show. So here we are. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Thank you, Michael. How's it going?
It's going great. It's going great. Of course, we're getting ready for the holidays now. So this is a good time where you and I get to sit back and hopefully relax a little bit, catch our breath, and then get ready for the spring semester. Am I right?
No, not at all. This is the time I get ahead. It's quiet around the office. No one's bothering me. I don't have any meetings. You know, I love student interaction, but this is really the time I can kind of sit down and put those plans that I have in my head into action. And, it's nice and quiet to get things done. This is where I get ahead 6 months. So when the fires start, I'm already in a good place.
I love it. I love it. You're planning ahead, and I absolutely agree. Now is the time to start planning, at least for the next 6 months. So that way, whatever curveballs end up showing up at our door over the next month, we're going to be ready for it. And hopefully some of that work is already done for the spring semester. So we'll hope. Mm-hmm. We'll hope. So, all right. So let's give a little background here to our audience. You decided on Coastal Carolina University for your undergraduate experience. So I'm wondering what felt right about your choice to attend Coastal Carolina?
Wow, you're asking me to go back a little bit here. So full disclosure, when my first time at Coastal, first time I stepped foot on my campus was my junior year of high school when I took my SAT. I'm going to be completely honest, and this is not going to be good for me. I didn't know Coastal was in my backyard. I lived in Myrtle Beach most of my life. I lived there since I was about 5 or 6, I believe. And that was my first, introduction to Coastal. So after that, I started exploring it. At the time, I really wasn't sure I wanted to go to college, to be perfectly honest. I kind of was just like, high school was high school, and I kind of didn't see the need to want to go to school anymore. So my dad and I talked, and he was like, well, you can go to college or pay rent. It's like, well, I guess I'm going to college. Started looking around, and first I took a couple of courses at Georgetown Technical College on the Conway campus, which is right across the street from Coastal, and started getting more exposure to Coastal, and it just felt like home. When I went through my orientation process, it was a smaller school at the time. I think we were 7,000. This is 2006. 2005, 2006 time frame. So it was still a smaller school for its size. The campus was very small. You could walk from one side of the campus to the other in no time. I always love to say I got to park near the buildings where I got to go in and out. Did the strategic move, parked where my last class was so I could immediately leave. Didn't have to walk across campus and everything. Whereas now Coastal is all parking on closer to the roads and everything, so you have to walk everywhere. Sorry, guys. But it just felt right. And the interactions that I had with those people, it really felt like a family connection. It felt like, hey, I'm not just a number, or I'm not just, this ID number that they've assigned to me. I am a student. I am a person. I have values, and this is what they want to do for me. Also, it was near home. I really hadn't traveled far away from home at the time. Family was there, so I had a good support system. So I wanted to make sure I included that, because by definition, I am a first-gen student. My father did go to college, but I'm the reason he stopped. Yay me. So by definition standards, I'm a first gen student, but my father went to school for accounting. He knew about the college environment. He definitely wanted me to continue that, wanted to go and get an education. So Coastal felt right. And I would not trade that experience for anything. It was the best college experience I think I could ask for. It was tailored to me. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the connections. And it was just a lot of fun.
Yeah, that sounds really good. And Coastal, of course, has grown quite a bit since then. So it must be interesting for you, like going back and looking at it now versus what it was when you were there.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it now. I mean, I think it's over 10,000, closer to 11, maybe 12.
Yeah.
They have a new president coming in. Dr. Senzo's retiring, which I didn't think he'd ever retire. I mean, he was a great leader. He had a great vision for the institution. Some of the people that I experienced have gone on to other things. Dr. Connor, who was the vice president of student affairs, has now moved over to the faculty side for higher education. Travis Overton is now the chief of staff and executive vice president. He was the fraternity and sorority coordinator. I was on his hiring committee. That's how far back it goes, like as a student. And then you look at, if you look at the other side of it, you look at how the institution has grown with, sports. They won the national championship in baseball in 2016, and now they're an undefeated football team, and they should be the outright Sun Belt champions, in my opinion, because they had a better record. But that's just me. They're going to a bowl game, and that it's just Coastal is everywhere. And even now being in Newberry and living in or going to Columbia all the time, I see more Coastal grads here as well. So the institution its following in touch has grown completely.
Yeah, that's incredible. So let's talk a little bit about fraternity. You joined Delta Chi Fraternity there. So what was special about the men of this particular chapter that made you want to join?
So one of the things I told myself when I started college, I said, I'm not going to be an introvert. I'm going to reinvent myself. I was an introvert in college. I didn't really talk much. There were people that said I thought I was mute because I never said anything. Honest to God. Didn't even know I had a voice. And one of the things I said to myself, I'm going to do something different, something that I wouldn't. And I will never forget the day as long as I live. There was a student organization fair on Prince Lawn, and I'm getting ready to walk across the Wall Pond Bridge to the business building, and I see this group of guys sitting in the very corner. I'll never forget it as long as I live. It's a bright, sunny day, and Kevin Mayberry, who was the secretary of the chapter at the time, comes up to me and starts talking to me. Have you ever thought about fraternity and sorority life? Had never thought about it, never contemplated the idea. At the time, my interaction with fraternity and sorority life was Animal House, because it's my father's one of his favorite movies. We watched it all the time growing up. It's hilarious. Talked to them, and I instantly felt a connection. Didn't know what it was. It was just this gut feeling that I had. And of course, I talked to the other chapters that were there. I gave everyone a fair shot, but there was something about this chapter that was unique, and I couldn't put my finger on it at first, but it was the people. Everyone had a background. Everyone had a different story, but we all had this one common ideal of we want to bring a different aspect of fraternity and sorority life to the campus. And the other thing was we wanted to be the best, obviously. We were competitive. We were naturally competitive. So going through that and deciding to join, and they actually drove my bid invitation to work because I had to work the morning of our acceptance. They came to where I worked, gave me the letter. I accepted, and that night we started the process. And it was just great. It was great to get to know different people that had different stories and that had different life experience, and you could really tailor that. And then you built this really intimate connection. This group of guys that still to this day that I call and I could talk to. I mean, one of my best friends in the fraternity is getting ready to have another a child, and it was great. That's awesome. He's getting ready to have another son, and he's excited about that. And we get to share life experience and stories, and really just stay connected through even beyond the fraternity, just as people in the world.
It's a great answer. See, it's the people. It's not the event. That had nothing to do with it. It was the people.
No.
That's why he joined and that's why he stayed. It's because of the relationships, the people, the connections. It wasn't the event. So this is really, really important for people who are listening to understand. You also
Mhm.
served as IFC president and also vice president at IFC. So I'm wondering, what types of things did you learn as you got more involved on a council level, stepping away from the chapter for a moment and looking at it from a council perspective? And then eventually you served as student coordinator for Fraternity Life at Coastal. So I'm wondering, what types of things did you learn as you started to branch out?
Well, as far as the IFC side of the house, I learned very quickly that the decisions we make as a council really do affect, the community, and it's important to give everyone an opportunity to voice their opinions. A lot of the things we were looking at were developmental. So one of the things I had to take on was, I believe, I started doing research on our J board and what that process would be like, and how we would hold each other accountable, and what kind of fines we would implement, and how that not only impacts the council, but the office of Fraternity Sorority Life at the institution, and making sure that there was a good partnership between the office, the council, and the chapters, so that there was a working relationship, so that when decisions like that had to come up, we weren't at each other's throats. We were looking at the betterment of the community, not an individual agenda. I don't like you because you're a part of this organization. That's not what it's about. It's about, let's come together and let's come up with solutions that are going to, one, help us, and then two, further the advancement of the community. And I found out also very quickly the working relationship with everyone outside of Fraternity Sorority Life, such as your vice presidents, and even conversations with the president of, how can we better Greek life? How can we form a bond that's going to encourage people? Sorry about that. Encourage people to join the chapters, and be involved with this not only for 4 years, but beyond that, and come home to the institution as well, because there's a connection there. Without one, you don't have the other. As far as the fraternity student coordinator side, at that point, I knew this was something I wanted to do as a career. I knew then, I think it was my sophomore year when I was talking to Travis, he said, you can do this for a career. And my answer was, you can do this for a living? Like,
This is a job.
never dawned on me, this is a job? You can do this? And it never dawned on me to ask that question. So that started it. And then he actually transitioned out. And then during that time, Luke Benfield came in, who was the Fraternity Sorority Life coordinator, director at the time, who I served under as the student coordinator. We started having developmental conversations because I told him this is what I want to do. So it was going more into student development theory, understanding, management of, events and resources, and how decisions are made and everything like that. So it really gave me a solid foundation real early of how this is going to benefit me now, at years later in the field. So and I try to take that same mindset with students that come into my office now and say, I want to do this for a living. I have a young lady who recently just came to me before we break for the semester and said, I want to really look at this. Now I'm going to tailor her experience with me to say, okay, if you want to do this, these are some of the things you're going to experience, whether it's fraternity sorority life or FYE, which is what I do now. So it's giving back to the students that are saying, yes, I want to do that.
You've had some great mentors, clearly, and now that you're paying it back to future students, I just think that's admirable, and that's certainly something that I try to do, is to try to, pass it off to the next generation and say, you can do this. If this is something you want to do, I'll lay out a map and I'll show you exactly how I do it. So that way, because I know I'm not going to be here forever, right? At some point, I'm not going to be here, but I want people to carry the torch forward because I believe in fraternity and sorority life. And so, that's my hope. And I think, we're doing a pretty good job at that. And now you're going for your Doctorate of Education. So, for all of those people that are considering, PhD, Doctor of Education, and continuing to some terminal degree, what has been the most difficult part of this program for you?
So that's what this spot is on the wall behind me. That's where the degree is going, by the way, because my other degree is here. So I think the hardest part, I'm going to give you two answers. One, right now, the first part is because of COVID. You know, ACU, Abilene Christian University, where I'm doing my my EDD, has done restrictions such as doing our interviews over Zoom, like this, which is fine. But as much as the students like technology, they would prefer the face-to-face connection, Gen Z, like we talked about in our presentation. So it's gotten a little difficult to schedule it. Luckily, I've been able to make it work, and I actually wrapped up my focus group interviews yesterday, so I was actually transcribing all that before we got on here. I think one of the biggest things right now is, time management is probably not necessarily a struggle, if you will, but it's looking at, someone who's in this position. I'm an assistant dean for student engagement, so it's not only FYE, but it's student organizations, Greek life, esports, intramurals and campus rec, marketing and communications kind of all fall under me. So it's making sure I'm giving them enough time and dedicating resources to them, which I'm doing, and then encouraging them to also do, terminal degrees if they want, which one of them is looking at it. And then, meeting the needs of everything else, which I've been able to do. And I've been very fortunate in the fact that the Dean of Students, Dr. Rouse here, has been very encouraging in the process. I actually started the program the day I was hired here back in February of 16. So I've been in the program for 4 years now, coming up on 4.5. And I hope to be done by May. That's the goal. But I think the time right now, especially COVID, I hate saying COVID, but COVID has really kind of, put a little strain on it. I'm trying to make sure that I'm getting all the necessary data and being able to pull out those points without the face-to-face interaction, which I think I've been able to do. But it's just been, more of a managing situations. There've been some late nights, even with, like we did in undergrad and grad school, hey, had to write a paper, let's do the next morning. Yes, I procrastinate. I think I do my best work at night. I like to write under pressure, so that usually gets the juices flowing a little bit better for me, at least. But overall, it hasn't been a terrible experience. It's not even been terrible. It's actually been a very positive experience. Also, the advisors for ACU have been helpful, and they reach out and they call usually once a month. Hey, how's it going? This is what's going on. This is what you got in front of you, and this is what you got to do to finish. So I wouldn't say it's been difficult in any stretch of the imagination, but I think right now, 2019, late 2019, 2020 have been, kind of a little bit of a struggle here and there.
Yeah, I love the support system that ACU has developed. I think that's really helpful. Not every program necessarily has that support structure in place. So the fact that they have it, I think is helpful, that you can lean on them a little bit for some advice and maybe just to vent and just to say, man, I'm frustrated right now.
And I think that's one of the big things. Also, my dissertation chair, Dr. Pope, he's the vice president of student affairs down at Alabama. So I think, institution, Newberry College dealing with COVID. Think about the University of Alabama dealing with COVID.
Sure.
And he started that job this fall when this all started. And I don't know if that was a good career move or not, but that's his alma mater, and he wanted to go back. But he's been very supportive as well. I can call him, I text him, I usually shoot him emails every other day. Hey, this is where I'm at. Just giving him updates. I try not to bother him too much because I know he has other doctoral candidates that are working through this process, but he's been very supportive in this endeavor as well.
That's great. Let's talk a little bit about Newberry College. You've been working there for now almost 5 years. First, you served as Director of Student Engagement in Greek Life. Now you're serving as Assistant Dean of Student Engagement. And in this new role, you serve as a bridge builder to establish collaborative relationships with both faculty and staff to promote student success. So specifically, how do you build these relationships with faculty and staff? I'm sure many of our listeners want to improve these types of relationships on their campus.
So one of the things we look at, because my primary focus area is now first year experience, we look at those interactions from day 0 to the day they transition to a sophomore student. So day 0, they're admitted. They are now a admitted student at Newberry College. So what do we need to do to make sure they have the best possible first year experience? So one of the things that we do is from day 1, when we're looking at orientation, making sure that faculty and staff are involved, that they have a presence outside of just your norms. Yes, they're there for advising, but we want them to also engage with the students as much as possible, so they know that Newberry is a family. It's a small campus. It's 1,200 students, but we want to know that every student matters. Every student has a voice, and they're going to get the same amount of attention as every student here on campus, so that they can come and ask questions. They can come get those resources that they need. So from day one, they're all on the orientation committee. Another thing that we try to do is we have this thing called Hal Effect, which is our freshman retreat weekend, if you will, where the freshmen come on campus and right before classes start, and we do a very intense extended orientation, if you will. We go more into policies and procedures and kind of show them what campus life is going to be like once school actually starts. They're actually paired up in their college 101 courses as groups, so they're getting to interact with their own classes every day. And it's activities from 10 ways to get kicked out of college, and things that they need to know. And then at nighttime, and this is where we really thrive on the campus culture, is we have a great organization called ACE, which is our student programming board, all campus entertainment, and they do programs. And unfortunately, this past year we weren't able to do a lot because of COVID, but the year prior we had a Chico Bean, I believe, and Darren Brand from Wild 'N Out come on campus. We did a glow night skate, glow in the dark, everything, bowling, dancing, mini golf in one of our facilities, and we want them to build community. So we take that mindset and do it with our faculty and staff as well. We try to make sure that as part of that they build community. Also, a great thing with our 101 class is that we have guest speakers coming all the time. So if they're specific to an area, for example, Dr. Tracy Power is a history professor on here, but he was also a historian for a long time. So he's actually our campus historian. So he comes in and talks about the history of Newberry College, how it started, and all the documents that he's been able to find. He does it in a quick 30-minute presentation, but he's one of those people as a history professor that doesn't really do memorize dates and regurgitate. It's let's tell the story of what happened. Why did it lead to this? And how Newberry has been created and how it's changed all these years and everything like that. So you get a different experience and a different approach from the traditional history class, if you will. So, and we also do another thing, again, with the one-on-one class, because that's what I'm usually referring to, is we do an on-campus scavenger hunt, if you will, to go find people. So one of the things on there is, where would you go to find information about Fraternity Sorority Life? We tell them to take a photo with the director so they know who it is. So that they know, okay, this person, Mr. Grooms, is the director of Fraternity Sorority Life. I need to go talk to him if I want to join an organization, or if I need to go to the registrar's office, or I need to find the chair of the department which my major is in. That's that kind of stuff. So they get those interactions, and it helps build through this process. And I think the other thing is we always have an open door policy that students come in, and most of the time the students that come see me, they don't even knock on the door. They just walk in and they just sit down, and I can feel their anguish, and I'm just like, what's wrong? Talk to me. And I've always told them, and I've said this for many years, I am an unlicensed counselor, and I should put a tip jar on my table, because a lot of them come here and they just spew their problems out, and they're like, how do you feel? I feel better, thanks, and they walk out. And I'm just like, well, a tip would have been nice. But just those interactions, I think, more or less being an ear and listening and helping them. Don't listen just to listen to respond, and help them with their processes.
Yeah, I'm jealous that you get to work with them every day, because I tell you what, I was on campus and speaking to your students, and that sense of community that you're describing is very apparent to me as somebody from the outside coming in. You can tell that they're well equipped, and you can tell they know who is who on campus. And I think it's because of this community that you're building and all these activities that you've put in place. So I think it shows, and and all I can say is I'm jealous that you get to work with them every day, because I just think it's awesome. So that's really cool.
They have their moments. I'll give them
that. So, well, let's talk about the moments, right? What types of responses are you seeing from the students right now in light of this pandemic and COVID-19? What are you seeing?
A lot of anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's been definite Zoom burnout, is what I'm calling it. I don't know if it's been trademarked yet or anything, but technology fatigue. I think there's been a struggle for understanding and learning, because not everyone is equipped to do online or learning, from the standpoint of access to internet at home, to sitting in front of a computer for hours on end trying to learn. You know, myself, I've done it since grad school, so I'm used to it. It doesn't bother me anymore. Where these students who crave social interaction and connection and community, they may struggle sitting behind a computer when they can't do anything and they're really not engaged in the classes.
Mhm.
So some lack of engagement, if you will, from that side. You know, they're worried. You know, they're honestly worried about what the world's going to be like. You know, when we come out of this, I will say that our students are doing what they should be doing. Though they're wearing their masks, they're doing the proper precautions, they're reporting if things are going awry. You know, they're self-isolating if they're showing symptoms, or if they do have it, going to isolation houses, they're going home. You know, I think we've been very fortunate because we're a smaller institution. We're so closely connected in everything. We know when things need to be addressed, so we've been able to respond very quickly. You know, we haven't had any real issues with it. Yes, we had some positive cases on campus, and we didn't have any spread or anything. We were able to identify it, but you know, I think honestly, it's more of I just want to get through this. It's not they're not you know, it doesn't feel like it's not going to a normal academic year.
Mm.
They kind of want to go through the motions, it seems like, for me at least, and get through this year so that hopefully by fall 2021 we have some sense of normalcy. We don't have to wear a mask anymore. We can actually, you know, hold our events and do things and have a true college experience, if you will, because I feel like, at least for our first year students right now, sophomores and juniors and seniors have had a college experience, a true college experience, where there's activities all the time and you can do this, and you know, you can go to your events and enjoy them and travel and then come back and tell everyone about what you did. And right now it's like, stay in this box, and you're saying color inside the lines, and you're telling students to color inside the lines, and some of them are trying to color outside the lines. So I think there's a fatigue, and I think a lot of us feel that as well, as administrators and faculty, as well as, you know, we're doing our best with what we have, but there is a lot of burnout. Getting through everything. So I think we've been very fortunate, at least at Newberry College, and I know some other institutions have struggled a little bit, and you know, I hope they come out of it better. But I think we've been very fortunate so far.
Yeah, I hope that they come out of it better. I really do. I mean, my two
Mhm.
kids are Gen Z, and I'm just hopeful that somehow, some way, they're a little bit more resilient as a result of this experience. But, you know, we'll see. The proof is in the pudding, right? We're going to
That's
see.
right. That's right. That's right.
So we started talking about Gen Z at the last AFA Annual Meeting. We presented Driven, Recruiting and Retaining Gen Z. In there, you were talking about improving fraternity and sorority processes to be more relevant for Gen Z. So I'm wondering, from your perspective, how is advertising student organizations different for Gen Z over prior generations, such as millennials? How is that different?
I think the biggest thing is you have to, you know, start with the end in mind. I think a lot of the decisions Gen Zs are making are, is this going to benefit me financially? Is this going to benefit my career? Is this going to benefit me down the road? So I think, you know, from that standpoint, you have to market to Gen Z of, this is how this is going to benefit for you. Whereas for me, you know, as a millennial, it's, oh, pretty picture, you know, bright, you know, if I saw something that caught my eye, it was probably because it was a cool design, or it was an interesting logo, or maybe a word or phrase caught it. Whereas Gen Z wants to know, how is this going to benefit me in the long run? So that's where we have to start. You know, we have to embrace the fact that they are, you know, financially focused. They care about where they're going to be, what their career paths are going to do, what they're, you know, they already know what they want to do. This is a pit stop along the road, essentially. This is, I am going to get my degree so I can go do what I need to do. And then they care about activism. They care about using the voice. So any of those relevant things, if you can combine those into a, hey, this is, you know, what fraternity sorority life can do for you, whether it's connections with alumni that are going to help with jobs, or, you know, volunteerism or community service, or, hey, this is an activism cause or campaign that we're going to do. You know, those are the things that you have to focus on. You don't focus on, you know, oh, we're Greek life. And, you know, and I've maintained the fact that some of our students don't understand that, you know, we do recruitment now. We don't do rush, because they don't rush to us anymore. We have to recruit them. You know, we have to sell this experience. We have to say, this is why this is a good decision for you. You're investing money in yourself for something. So it's a short-term investment for a long-term gain. and you have to showcase that.
Yeah, you make some great points. And I hope that our listeners, when they're looking at their recruitment events for the spring, that they take what it is that you're telling them and they look at their events and say, do we have a connection here? Are we able to show these members how it's going to benefit them in the long run? Are the events focused around let's say jobs or internships or the environment, things that are going to resonate with today's students? If we keep doing the same events that we did 10 years ago for recruitment, it's not going to work. It's not going to stick. And you're going to see, unfortunately, a decline in your membership. So I hope they take what you're saying and then put that on the events and say, yes or no, does it fit what he's talking about? I hope that they do that. If they do, they're going to be successful. So.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest problem is that we as in some organizations haven't shifted our mindset from millennial to Gen Z, and
Right.
Gen Z is going to be here for a while, and I know we'll start talking about Gen Alpha at some point, but right now Gen Z is our clients. If you look at it from a business standpoint, they're our clientele. We have to look at what do we need to do to tailor to Gen Z. Now Gen Alpha is probably going to be a whole nother ball of wax with COVID and everything going on. And so we're going to have to, really dig into that as well at some point. But for now, at least for the next, 10, 12 years,
Mm-hmm.
Gen Zers in our classrooms, in our organizations, in the workplace. So you need to tailor every experience you have to that mindset.
Mm-hmm. Well, we talked about recruitment, but I'm wondering what changes would you recommend to new member education for Gen Z?
So customizable is a big thing, the values piece,
Mm-hmm.
learn about the individual member. What do they want to stand for? If it's activism, tell them how your organization is active. How do you do social justice? How do you do social change? How do you deal with climate change? If that's what they want, if they care about community service, if they have a personal story that connects them to an organization such as, Autism Speaks or, Jimmy V Foundation, if you will, talk to them about how you could potentially, your experiences in this chapter could help that down the road. You have to make the experience mean something to them. It's not enough, again, to learn the history of the organization, which is important. Yes, learning and having a baseline of your foundation, your pillars, where you started is always important. But you need to look at beyond just that. You need to look at what is it going to do for them. Show them how to be leaders as well. Give them an opportunity to shadow. Get them connected with other Greeks on campus, not just in the community, but what about your faculty and staff? I'm sure every college campus has someone who has been in a fraternity or sorority at some point. Have them connect, have a conversation with them, like we did here. We built a database of not only our alum, but our current faculty and staff members that are members, so that if there is something that they want to do, for example, one of our ADs for compliance over in athletics was a PICAP at the University of South Carolina. So if I have a student who's interested in South Carolina, I may send him over there just because he's been to that institution. He knows what that's about as a graduate student. So he knows there's a connection there. You can build your network that way, and you can build a better brand of yourself. So you have to tailor it to what they are looking at and what their experience is going to be.
Yeah, I think that's great that you have Greek affiliation for all of faculty. I think that's a phenomenal piece. I don't know how many universities are currently documenting all of that and then making it available to the students as a resource, because I think that would open some eyes of students to say, wow, I had no idea that so-and-so, dean is actually a member of, Pi Kappa Phi or whatever the organization is, because that gives us some common ground, right? That gives us something that we can talk about and we can bond over. And we can go to that person as an additional resource on campus for ideas. But many times they just don't know. And the other thing is, listen, I mean, we do alumni initiations all the time within fraternity and sorority life. So if there is a faculty member on campus who is helping fraternity and sorority, and maybe they never joined a Greek organization, now's the time to do it. Get more allies on campus to help us in this movement.
Yeah, and I'll say that from my undergrad experience, that is something we did every semester. We initiated at least or offered at least one. Now, not everyone accepted, which is understandable. I initiated my father as part of that process. So, family connection now. But we also looked at, other people on campus. How could we build a better, brand of Delta Chi at the time, and how could we build a better Greek community if we have more allies? So, I would even say as far as this, encourage them to go ask their presidents of the campuses.
Yes.
Could say is no. or I'm already a member. But then now you have a conversation that has started of, hey, I'm Greek, you're Greek, let's have a conversation about how we can do this better.
Yeah, I love that you built it into the business plan, essentially, of Delta Chi to say that we are going to initiate alumni members every semester. Who's the right person this semester, right?
Mhm.
Just having that conversation as a chapter puts you light years ahead of, so many other organizations on campus to figure out how do we spread this thing? How do we grow this within the administration so we get more allies? So smart, but I just don't know how many chapters are having that conversation on a semester by semester basis. I more need to have that conversation.
Oh yeah, of course.
So that's great. Talk to us a little bit about some of the technology tools that you're using at Newberry College within fraternity and sorority life that make your life easier. How do we leverage technology?
So I will honestly say technology has been our biggest Achilles heel here at Newberry. One of the things that when I started here is we had a campus activities app that was really underutilized, and I tried to revitalize it, and I failed miserably. So that was one of the things that we tried to do. The biggest one I will say from a sorority life standpoint is the PNM Companion app, which has been phenomenal. Phenomenal. I love everything about that app. I love its ease. I love its usability. I love that it's user friendly. I love that I don't have to read the Moraba because I really hate reading that thing, to be honest with you. I've got it paraphrased down, but I hit the highlights. But I love that they have access to it prior to even coming in and talking to me. We try to use more social media, I will say. We still really rely on kind of email and old school flyering, post around campus. Technology has always been one of the things that we have struggled with because unfortunately technology is expensive and implementation has been something that's been very hard for us. But we've been able to make it work. That PNM companion app has been a godsend. I haven't really looked into it, but if there's an IFC version of that, I would buy it tomorrow, to be honest with you, because if it's anything like that, it saves a lot of time and a lot of headache, and you can still share the same information, just it's on their phone and not in an email or on a wall that they're not going to read, or a flyer, because all of that becomes white noise to them because it's the same thing over and over again. But yeah, for technology, that's something we have not done well with, but we've been able to make it work.
Yeah, well, you just gave our listeners an idea to run with, an IFC companion app. Make it so.
I would like royalties on that for
That's right.
10%, please.
$1 of each person, each purchase is going to go to Michael A. Smith.
I will take that. I will take that.
That's great. So that we love good food here at Fraternity Foodie. So I'm wondering, what's your favorite restaurant in Newberry, South Carolina, and what do you usually order?
So my favorite restaurant down here is called El Poblano. It's a Mexican restaurant. And my favorite thing to order there it's the Texas fajitas. It is a mammoth portion of fajitas. So it's steak, shrimp, chicken, onions, bell peppers, all that good stuff, the rice, the guac, all that good stuff. And I don't even wrap it as a fajita. I just eat it straight out of the thing because it's that good. I don't need it. I just put it on chip, eat it. I don't need the fajita. Don't give me that. It's actually really good. It's actually one of, I think, 2 of our Mexican restaurants here in the area. It's really good, really friendly environment. I love good Mexican food, so that's one thing. And if I had to pick a close second, because I'm always into food as well. Luigi's is an Italian restaurant over here. I've never had a bad meal. Love their chicken Alfredo. One of these days, I'm actually going to try something else besides chicken Alfredo, because when I usually find something I like in a restaurant, I just order that consistently because I fear change, because every time I've ordered something different, I haven't liked it as much. So, they've got a really good selection as well, and they're really friendly. And some of the students work at each of those places, so it's always nice to interact with them and talk to them about things going on and whatnot. So
that's perfect. You have your Mexican restaurant spot, you have your Italian restaurant spot. I mean, what else do you need? I mean, life is good.
I could go for so down here in Columbia, we have this place called Tsunami. It's a sushi restaurant. I could deal with one of those up here too. I love good sushi, but I'll drive 30 minutes to get it. Bring
the sushi to Newberry. All right. That's another business idea for any local college students that want to open up a restaurant. That's awesome. All right. So if our listeners have any questions for you, where's the best place to connect with you or ask you questions?
So you can connect me on social media. You can find me, Michael Smith. It's Michael A. Smith 1890 on most of them, actually. You can email me at Newberry. It's michael.smith@newberry.edu. You're more welcome to send any kind of information, any questions you have about anything. I'm always willing to talk about any kind of the processes through higher education. It doesn't have to be fraternity sorority life. It could be anything, but if it is fraternity sorority life, we'll find a way to find you an answer.
Yeah, you're so accessible. I think that's what the students really love about you. That was the sense that I got. You're just very approachable. You're accessible. If a student wants to talk, they don't have to make an appointment. They're just going to show up at your office, and you're cool with that. And I think that's what makes you just a great faculty member, a great advisor. Is you're accessible, and the students know it. So I think that's what makes you so successful. I think it's phenomenal.
Well, I'm always here for them. Like I said earlier, they're our clients. I want to make sure that I have every resource for them. If I have the answer to the question, if I don't have the answer, we'll find the answer. But I want them to know that I'm here, that I support their experience. I'm here because Newberry saw something in me, and I want to make sure they understand why. So I want to make sure that they feel that.
I appreciate that. Thank you for the good work that you do at Newberry. The students show. So I appreciate everything that you put into them. And thank you for being a friend. Thank you for working with me on this AFA program. It came out great. And we're going to have to put our thinking caps together and figure out what are we going to do for next year's AFA Annual Meeting. So start thinking about that now.
We could go ahead and broach Gen Alpha if you want. But
yeah, maybe.
I'm not ready for that yet. We should do a post-COVID recruitment.
There you go. Post-COVID recruitment. Let's hope. Let's hope and pray. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, post-COVID recruitment. What new things have taken off because of it? Something like that. Because we had to be innovative. I think that was one of the things that COVID really made us do. We had to become very innovative. The status quo was not going to work, so we had to, think outside the box again. And I think that's something that sometimes we forget because we get used to this is the way we've always done it, and that's a very dangerous statement. We need to always be innovative and always be looking at what can we do to better make processes easier, and especially remove barriers for our students. So,
I believe that's going to make fraternity and sorority better, is that out of the box thinking that we were forced into, but it made us rethink this experience and what is it that we're truly trying to do right now. And so I think we're going to emerge better because of it. So we'll see.
I'll definitely.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the time. I appreciate that. To our listeners, if you enjoyed this, please like it and share it with others that are going to find some value. We appreciate you being here with us. We hope you have a wonderful holiday. We hope that you have a happy new year, and we are going to see you on another episode of Fraternity Foodie. Thanks so much. Bye for now.